Hey, what is going on, guys? It's Kyle here from Caledonian Creations. Out here filming our first Leachianus video today. We're going to be going over the basic care of Leachianus from hatchling to adult, and even to breeding setups. Today we're going to go over the way we keep them, the way we've been taught. Some of the big time names in the hobby have helped us learn over the years of what to do, because it's not something you can just pick up overnight. But I hope I help you guys here with some good information. When I'm outside here with my first animal to show you guys and my first setup to show you guys of the day, I just pulled this out of my rack. Just wanted to show you guys how you set up a baby gecko to subadult size. And the way you do that is simple. It's in a 6-quart tub. Now, a lot of people think giant gecko, giant cage. That's not necessarily true. You can see here, it's a pretty simple setup. It's a bin with some cork, 3-dimensional spaces, a lot of crevices, a lot of places for them to hide. A small round would be preferred, but as I have a lot of geckos, I unfortunately didn't have a perfect round to fit in here. So I just made it like this, which works just as well. I have a water dish in the corner, and if you notice, I've only sprayed this section of the cage. I just sprayed it right now to show you guys. The way you maintain humidity with Leachianus is you need to keep high ambient air humidity, but the surfaces inside your enclosure need to be dry. The reason behind this, and the person who taught me this is Steve from Leap and Leachies. He taught me this, and I've practiced it for about 4 years now, so I feel like I have enough personal experience on this method to speak up on it now. And yes, this information has come from him. He told me how to do this. Of course, he's been breeding them for many years. So, what you do is you keep a water dish in the front corner of the cage. What this does is it has water, so water brings humidity. What you do is you use a cage that is not ventilated very well at all. So if you notice, there's no holes in this cage, and I just said I pulled this out of my rack. In the rack system, there's a small little gap from the tub to the piece of wood in the system. That's all I need at all for enough ventilation, and in all honesty, sometimes with this particular rack that I use, it's a little bit too much ventilation, and I have to spray it in addition to my water dish. Pretty frequently, actually. So, if you're keeping them by yourself and you just have 1 or 2 geckos, I'd recommend keeping them in a 6-quart shoebox tub, not airtight with no holes in it at all. That gap in between the lid and the plastic bin is enough air flow to give this gecko plenty of oxygen. The way oxygen works is if there's too many CO2 particles, oxygen moves in, CO2 particles move out. That's enough for the gecko to breathe. The gecko does not have the same respiratory system that we have. So if I spray this corner and I have this little humid section here, well, I guess you can call this water a humid section. Basically what it does is it raises the air humidity here. This gets a little bit of speckles of water on the side, and it does actually get this front of this cork a little bit wet. However, 75% of the cage, the cork surfaces are dry, and the gecko has a dry place to sit, so he won't get any skin infections, and we keep it super clean to make sure that nothing happens. This is cleaning day. This is the worst that you will see them. A little bit of food on the side here, but other than that, not too bad. You gotta make sure to scrub your cork weekly and let it dry out before putting it back in. You don't want any bacteria or anything like that to get in the cork, because that's what the gecko's sitting on all the time, and that's what they are going to feel, and that's what's going to potentially affect the animals. So that's your most important thing to remember here: high ambient humidity and dry surfaces, and a small secure environment. Because if you keep a baby Leachy with too much space around him, he won't eat. He won't feel comfortable. He'll be on the defense most of the time, and he won't eat. He'll try to stay hidden when he can. So yeah, this is a hatchling enclosure. We're going to go inside and grab another cage, which is a subadult enclosure, subadult to adult enclosure for a single animal, and I'll show you guys how I keep them. Okay, so I'm here in my back room now. It's a little bit cold outside, so I figured it'd be best to finish this video inside. I'm here with a subadult to adult setup for Leachianus. In here we have a little F1 Pine Island male. A little doobie roach right there, because I feed them some roaches. Okay, so this size enclosure is a 15-quart tub. I recommend this size for Leachianus, 100 grams to 200 grams. Anything over 200 grams, it starts to get a little bit messy in here, so you should probably upgrade or pair that animal to something a little bit bigger. Going into a full adult cage, PVC setups. There's a lot more things you can do once you hit around 200 grams or a full adult size. But this is how I keep my sub-adult to adult leachies once I get out of 6 quarts. Basically, same concept as the last one. You got a water dish in the front corner. You spray this front corner, keeping that ambient air humidity we talked about high. One of the things that's important about to remember about Leachianus is that in the wild, they're not big drinkers. They get the majority of their moisture from the air. That's one really important thing to remember about Leachianus. So in here we have a good amount of cork. We have a stick coming across so the gecko can climb across. Again, same thing as the last one. We want to make sure that the surfaces inside our enclosure are dry. This one needs to be a little bit clean, and of course, as the gecko is bigger, you need to be maintaining those cages more often. If you have a 100-gram leachie in a 15-quart tub, you need to make sure that you clean every feeding and make sure that the gecko always is on something dry. As long as you do that, the gecko will eat well and do really well. I found that they grow better in smaller enclosures based off things I've learned from other people. I decided to try that myself, and as I did it myself, they of course they do grow smaller. Grow better in smaller enclosures. It's just the trade-off is that you do have to maintain them a little bit more often, and I think that's important to that high maintenance and trade for your gecko's health is definitely something I'll make a trade for any day. And I think a lot of keepers will. And since we kind of talked a lot about this similar setup before, and I just wanted to show you guys a sub-adult setup, I'll just take this gecko out to show you a little bit better. He's a high patterned F1 Pine Island from Leapin' Leachies. He's going into shed right now, so you can see part of his body shedding. But yeah, this guy hopefully will be paired this upcoming year, and I keep them in this size enclosure before I pair them, and I put them next to their mate. It's clear, it's small, so they pretty much will interact with the gecko next to them, and so that's why I put them like that, so that they have a little bit of an introduction period before pairing, as pure locale Leachianus can sometimes be a little bit harder to pair than the mixes. So yeah, I'll be going back up to the reptile room now to show you guys the adult enclosures. Alright guys, so we're back here in the reptile room to show you guys what an adult Leachianus breeding setup looks like. It looks like a cluttered mess, if you can't tell. So, Leachianus in the wild, they like to live in tree hollows, as we discussed earlier, about them being secure. They still need that in an adult setup. They need to feel secure in order to breed, to eat, everything. They need to feel secure. That's one of the biggest things the leechie has, is a nice poop right here. Got to do some cleaning. Of course, Leachianus have a lot of upkeep, which is a big part of them. You have to maintain their humidity and maintain their large poop in a humid environment, which requires a lot of cleaning, because if you don't keep it clean, they can get skin infections very quickly. Also, if you keep it too wet. So I will go over that in this enclosure. So what we do here normally is we have a large water dish right about here, and we spray this side of the enclosure. Now this cage actually happens to start gaining too much humidity. So what we did is we took the water dish out, and we've only been spraying daily this section of it. It's important to maintain each cage differently. You'd have to understand humidity and how it works in order to properly maintain your Leachianus. Ideally what we like to do here is we like to keep the air inside of our enclosures humid, around 70 to 100% at all times. And what we want to keep the surfaces inside of our enclosure dry, so that the gecko is sitting on a dry surface but breathing in humid air. As we discussed earlier, Leachianus kind of are like frog in the sense where they get the majority of their moisture through the air. In the wild, they're not big drinkers. They live high up in the trees. They don't see big pools of water to drink all the time. They get a lot of their moisture from the air, and that's how they keep themselves hydrated. So if you don't keep your air humid, the Leachianus won't stay hydrated all the time. It may still live, and it just won't grow as well, and there will be things inside the gecko that may not develop the way that they're supposed to. We don't actually really know 100% what keeping a Leachianus dry does to it long term. We simply don't have enough sample size, and the ones that we've seen seem to live. So what that tells us is we should just keep them the way they are, need to be kept, and hope that they don't get any problems if they're kept too dry. So they live a long time in the wild. They live 40 years plus. So we have animals in captivity currently that were field collected in the 90s. Now, inside this pair is a young pair of animals. They're about 5 years old. They're not that pairs that are that old, but they've been kept humid their whole lives. And we have a lot of cork rounds in here. We have a one diagonal going here, one here, one here. There's one in the back. There's one in the back corner here. This is a deep cage. It looks like it's not so big from the front view, but it's actually a pretty deep cage, and it has a lot of surface area. And that's another thing we need to discuss with adult Leachianus. They don't necessarily like or need a large enclosure with a lot of space. What they want is a lot of surface area and a lot of places to hide. If you could see in this cage, there's a million places for this gecko to hide. There's cork rounds, there's little crevices in between the rounds, there's sticks, there's a million places for these animals to hide. They want to be able to get away from the partner if need be. That's what you want. You won't want the geckos forced to interact with each other all the time. They have to be able to get away from each other in case of a fight, and just in their natural behavior. Sometimes they get away from each other. Sometimes you see them in the same lock, but sometimes they're, one's in here, one's over there, one's up here, one's down here. It's just how it goes sometimes. It's important for the gecko to feel secure in their environment, and that's what you create with a lot of different spaces, and you also eliminate the chance of errors. A lot of people take leachies and they put them in large exoterra type enclosures with a few cork rounds, and what that does is it flows dry air through your enclosure constantly, as an exoterra is designed to ventilate. I can show you on some of my exoterras for other species. There's holes in the top, there's a full screen top. This cage is designed to ventilate. What you want with Leachianus is high ambient air humidity, and that's something that's really, really hard to maintain in a ventilated enclosure unless you have a really humid room. And here in North Jersey, we don't have that. So you guys may ask, how on earth do you find the eggs? Now, normally the geckos will lay the eggs somewhere in the front or near the water dish, but you just got to maintain their cycle. You can actually feel eggs inside of the animal when they're cycling, and over time learn when they'll lay, and you can observe their behaviors and find the eggs on the bottom. I don't use any sort of lay box. I just prefer to give them a deep substrate to dig in, and yeah, that's pretty much a large Leachianus adult enclosure. Okay guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed that video on a little bit of a care guide on Leachianus. I hope I brought you guys some information you may not have heard before. I'm sitting out here now with my mascot Chubbs. He's hanging out with us for the remainder of this video. We got the Caledonia Creations t-shirt on. You guys, anybody out there, if you do t-shirt designs, be sure to hit me with a comment and send me a link, because we're looking for some new designs for our t-shirts, and this is definitely not going to be the permanent design, but it's just a little bit of a thing for the video. So we got Chubbs here, and so basically I wanted to make a quick review of the 3 major points that I wanted to bring up in Leachianus care. That being humidity, dry surfaces, and security. So the big 3 you have to remember: you need high ambient humidity, you need dry surfaces inside your enclosure, and you need a secure environment. If you can accomplish those 3 things, you'll have a great time with Leachianus. So if you guys like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me out a lot, it helps the channel out a lot, helps the geckos out a lot. And I'll be sure to see you guys soon. Leave any questions or comments down below. This is Kyle from Caledonia Creations, and I hope you have a great day.